Welcome to The Good Shepherd with Pastor Ben Nworie. Pastor Ben was born and raised in Nigeria, but made his way to the United States as a young man, where he spent many years learning God's Word and getting his education. He has taught at Azusa Pacific and Biola universities for many years, but now is dedicated to building God's church, God's Way, here in the city of Gardena, located in the southwest area of Los Angeles. To get directions or for more information, go to ben.nworie.com. That's ben.nworie.com. Or you can call 310-995-7912. Now let's join Pastor Ben for today's teaching.
Welcome to this teaching session of the Good Shepherd Radio Ministry. We're glad for all of you who join us week after week in this teaching ministry. Now, we're continuing with the broad theme of following Jesus. There was a time when Jesus was teaching, and his teaching was getting very tough for people to handle, and people were going away, and Jesus asked his disciples, "Are you also going to go away?" And I remember very clearly what Peter answered there in John chapter 6, verse 68. He said, "Lord, to whom shall we go? You have the words of eternal life." Jesus is the only one to really follow. There is every reason, every advantage. It makes all the sense in the whole world to follow Jesus Christ. But our specific topic today is Christ calls for fishermen. This is taken out of Matthew chapter 4, verse 18. Topic of our teaching again is Christ calls for fishermen. Basically, we're talking about Peter, Andrew, James, and John. Our background text is Matthew 4:18 to 22, and our key verse is Matthew 4:18. Let me read the text. "And Jesus, walking by the Sea of Galilee, saw two brothers, Simon called Peter, and Andrew his brother, casting a net into the sea, for they were fishermen. Then Jesus said to them, 'Follow me, and I will make you fishers of men.' They immediately left their nets and followed him. Going on from there, he saw two other brothers, James, the son of Zebedee, and John his brother, in the boat with Zebedee their father, mending their nets. Jesus called them, and immediately they left the boat and their father and followed him." Again, verse 18 says that Jesus, walking by the Sea of Galilee, saw two brothers. Sea of Galilee. Let's talk about the Sea of Galilee for a minute. It is a fairly large body of water, but not very big. But the Sea of Galilee is surrounded by the many villages of Galilee, as we saw before. The length of the sea is about 13 miles from north to south, and it is about 18 miles across from east to west. So you can see the Sea of Galilee is comparatively small as seas go. No wonder why some people call it the sea. Others, such as St. Luke, consistently calls it what? The lake. And this body of water, the Sea of Galilee, lies in the Jordan Valley, and the surface of the Sea of Galilee is 680 feet below sea level. And so this location in the deep valley accounts for its very warm climate and helps to make the surrounding countryside remarkably fertile. It is described as one of the loveliest lakes in the world, according to Dr. William Barclay. In the time of Jesus, fishing was a very popular occupation, especially on this sea, the Sea of Galilee. And the Sea of Galilee was therefore crowded with fishing boats. Josephus, the Jewish historian, once documented no fewer than 240 fishing boats on one of the shores of the sea. Now, the text says that they were casting their net. What kind of net was this? The kind of fishing net that Peter, Andrew, James, and John were handling when Jesus called them was the casting net called the amphiblastron. It was a big circular net that could be maybe about as wide as 9 feet in diameter, and the fishermen threw this net skillfully into the water from the land or from the boat at the shadow edge of the lake. Now, around the bottom circumference of the net, it was weighted with pellets of lead, which helped it to sink into the sea and to surround some fish. The net had a strong rope at the top with which it was then drawn through the water to land, where the fish that were caught were then collected. I happen to be very familiar with this kind of fishing net because I grew up around the lake too, in a city called Uguta in eastern Nigeria. Now, there are 3 things that we must know and remember about Christ's call and these fishermen. Number 1 is industriousness and the call. Well, what is industriousness? Hard work, simply. Jesus must have called maybe 4 to 7 disciples who were fishermen altogether, as we see in John 21, verses 1 through 3. So why would Jesus call mostly fishermen? Jesus called on these ordinary fishermen to follow him because of their industriousness. Fishing is not the job for a lazy man. These fishermen were not men of great scholarship. They were not men of great intellect or influence or wealth or social background. Of course, they were not paupers either, but they may have had to take out loans to pay for equipment, and they probably had to hand over much of their cash in the form of temple and Roman taxes. Of course, you know, the Roman authorities at this time held considerable political and economic power over the entire region. And we know cost of doing business. We read in the text, John and James were there with their father mending their net. When the net breaks down, you have to keep it up, repair it. That will cost some money. So these fishermen were just simple, regular, hard-working folk with no great background, and certainly they were taught to be people with no great future. In fact, in Acts of the Apostles chapter 4, they are described as ignorant and unlearned men. In the Greek, it's even more graphic. They're described this way: agrammata kai idiotai. That is, the a before the grammata negates it. So no education, no distinction of any kind about these men. But they were very hard-working, tax-paying, ordinary folks. Professional fishermen are very industrious. I said, I can say this out of experience because I lived around fishermen. They put in a lot of long hours of hard work. For example, Peter once told Jesus, "Master, we have worked hard all night and have caught nothing." We see this in Luke chapter 5 and verse 5. Jesus consistently called and chose ordinary people who were diligent at their work, whether they were tax collectors like Matthew, or physicians like Luke, or philosophers, theologians like Paul, or fishermen like these men that we're looking at now. They were all very industrious or hard-working people. A man once applied with the Foreign Mission Board of a prominent denomination, and this man was applying as a missionary. Then at the interview, they asked him a simple question. Tell us, what have you been doing and what are you doing now? You know what the man's response was? He said, nothing. So the mission board said to him, well, we're sorry we cannot hire you at this time. And they advised him to first go back and start doing something at his local church or his local community. And that reminds me of the story of a man called Eschinus, a very ordinary man. He once came to Socrates and said, I'm a poor man, I have nothing else, but I give you myself. Upon which Socrates responded to Eschinus, do you not see that you are giving me the most precious thing of all? What Jesus needs is ordinary men and women who will give him themselves, and Jesus can do anything with people like that, with people like you and me, ordinary people, if we will give ourselves wholeheartedly to Jesus. It was these kinds of ordinary men with their human limitations and flaws whom Jesus chose. You remember, and we mentioned this a little bit in an earlier session, Peter was impulsive. You remember, he was fearful in the face of acute danger. How about Andrew? He used to be a disciple of John, you may recall. And though he was most noted for being the first apostle called by Christ, he was somewhat obscure and less assertive than Peter, James, and John. And knowing that Matthew was a tax collector, his fellow disciples would have had to wrestle with difficult emotions when dealing with someone they would have been regarded as a traitor. Because, as a tax collector, the Jews definitely hated those tax collectors. But Jesus chose a tax collector. All right? Because they made a killing out of the taxes that they were collecting. They collected far more than what they remitted back to Rome. How about James and John? Those two brothers, also known as the sons of thunder. They appear, according to the biblical account, to have had some kind of short or even violent tempers. They also coveted the idea of being Jesus' deputies, which could have provoked dispute among the other disciples. So I'm saying all this to say that, and to remind us that these apostles and these disciples were in no way perfect. So the good news then is that if Jesus could use these imperfect, ordinary people, then there is hope that Jesus can also use you and he can use me. And all he wants is for us to give ourselves to him and be willing to follow him fully to the end. Now, successful fishermen had to have some qualities. And so let's look at some of these qualities that these fishermen had, which also would make them good at catching people, because that was what Jesus invited them to be, to follow him so that they would become fishers of men. Let's look at those qualities. First of all, the quality of patience. And then we're going to look at the quality of perseverance, the quality of precision, and on. Patience. This fisherman must learn to wait patiently until the fish takes the bait. If they are restless and quick to move, they will never catch anything. To become good at winning souls, we will need to have patience. And if you've been involved in witnessing or in teaching or preaching the Bible, you will know this, that quick results rarely happen in preaching, in teaching, or in soul winning. We must learn to wait. Patience. The next quality to look at is the quality of perseverance. Fishermen encounter many discouragements. They must learn never to be discouraged, but always to try again. Reminds me of that saying, if you try and don't succeed, try again. Not like that little 5-year-old that was asked by the teacher, hoping that the child would complete the saying, the way we normally do it. If you try and don't succeed, what did the child say? If you try and don't succeed, you're doing it wrong. That's what the little 5-year-old said. But it's not like that. The fishermen understand that they have to persevere, try again. Good preachers and good teachers must not be discouraged when nothing seems to happen. They must always be ready to try again. The next quality of those fishermen, I just call it the quality of pluck, just to make it rhyme with patience and perseverance. But simply that means courage. Fishermen also encounter many dangers. Said more than once, I lived around fishermen, and so I know that they have to be courageous because there are many dangers out there on the sea or even on the lake. The Sea of Galilee, because of its topography, remember, down there in the valley and then surrounded by the hills or mountains, very cold on top, very warm down below, led to violent storms and very sudden storms too. So they must be ready to risk and face the fury of the sea and of the gale, wind with very heavy force. Good preachers and teachers must be well aware that there is always a danger in telling people the truth. Those who tell the truth, more often than not, take their reputation and their lives in their hands. It takes patience, perseverance, and courage to win others to Christ. The next quality is that of precision. The fishermen had to have an eye for the right moment. Through experience, and through doing this over the years and learning from other experienced fishermen, they know that there are times when it is hopeless to fish. They know when to cast and when not to cast the net, or when to throw in the line and when not to throw in the line, the fishing line. Good preachers and teachers have to learn to choose the right moment. There are times when people will welcome the truth and times when they will resent the truth. There are times when the truth will move them and times when the truth will harden them in their opposition to the truth. Wise preachers and teachers know that there is a time to speak and a time to be silent. Still talking about precision, they must also be able to fit the bait to the fish. One fish will be lured by a particular bait and another fish by another kind of bait. Paul said that he became all things to all people if by any chance he might win some. 1 Corinthians 9:22. Wise preachers and teachers know that the same approach will not win everyone. They may even have to know and recognize their own limitations. They may have to discover that there are certain spheres in which they themselves can work and others in which they cannot. And lastly, the fishermen learned to be prudent. They must keep themselves out of sight. If they make their presence too obvious or even show their shadows, the fish will certainly not bite. Wise preachers and teachers will always seek to present men and women with not themselves but with Jesus Christ. Of course, we know the aim of evangelism and soul winning is to fix people's eyes on Jesus Christ, who himself is the author and finisher of our faith. Just like fishermen learn from others where to find the fish and how to catch them, we Christians need to learn from others how to win people to Christ. Cooperation is therefore relevant in the work of the Lord, just as it is in fishing. And we've been talking about industriousness, reference to the call. Let me talk about two other things real quick. Intrusiveness of the call. When Jesus calls us, he sometimes seems to interrupt the flow of our lives. But it is always a desirable intrusion. These 4 fishermen were going about their normal business of fishing when Jesus reached out to them with the call. but their positive response to the intrusion of Christ into their lives with the call of discipleship, they became outstanding figures in the spread of the gospel around the world. Had they remained at their fishing nets, they would have lived and died unknown, just like most other Palestinian fishermen of the time. Quick story. Before my conversion, I was studying to become a pharmacist, so as to be like one of my rich uncles who was a pharmacist. However, after I received my call to the ministry, soon after my new birth experience, my focus of study changed. And for the past 30 plus years, I have had the joy and blessing of touching multiplied hundreds of lives in 5 continents. If I had not responded to Christ's intrusion in my life, I would have missed all the joy and blessing of the Lord. I would have remained in my sin, in my confusion and darkness, heading towards hell and destruction. As Christians, we have to reach out. Lastly, the call of the Lord is irresistible. Irresistibleness of the call. If Jesus calls you, you may delay, but you must follow. These disciples, after their initial encounters with Jesus, went back to their fishing, but eventually they returned to him, and the Lord used them to turn the world upside down the right way up. The sooner you obey the call, the better. As I was beginning to say about my life, I did not want to be a pastor like my father, who was a preacher or a pastor. I tried to run and hide till the Lord lovingly intruded into my life. Now I have no greater passion than to remain a faithful shepherd of the Lord's flock. Before we conclude, let me again urge you and remind you, please donate and support this ministry. Let us hear from you, because we use this weekly Bible teaching broadcast of the Good Shepherd Radio to reach out to the unsaved and to the unchurched. Give your generous support today to this ministry. It costs as little as 10 cents to reach a family for Christ through this radio ministry. Your weekly financial support of $25, $50, or $100 or more will go a long way in helping the Good Shepherd Radio ministry to reach families for Christ every single week. We need your help as God's people to grow the body of Christ. Our ministry is federally recognized as a 501c3 organization, which means your donations are tax deductible. You have an opportunity to make a real difference in people's lives. To donate, go to ben.nworie.com and click on the donate button. You may also donate by sending a check or money order made out to Resurrection Church. In the memo section, please write the Good Shepherd Radio. Then mail the check or money order to 1444 Rosecrans Avenue. Please donate today. God bless you. You'll be richly blessed. In concluding, let us close with the word of the hymn by Bellows Benjamin McKinney. It says, "Wherever he leads, I'll go. Take up your cross and follow me. I heard the Master say, I gave my life to ransom you. Surrender your all today. Wherever he leads, I'll go. Wherever he leads, I will go. I will follow my Christ who loves me so. Wherever he leads, I'll go." Give us a call. We'd love to pray with you and to pray for you. If you're looking for a church home, please visit us at 1444 Rosecrans Avenue in Gardena, close to Southwest Los Angeles. We worship Sundays at 11 o'clock in the morning. We hope to see you. God bless you.
You have been listening to The Good Shepherd with Pastor Ben Nworie. For more information, go to ben.nworie.com. That's ben.nworie.com. Or you can call 310-995-7912. They meet for worship on Sundays at 11 a.m. Please plan to visit them if you do not have a church home. Call 310-995-7912. That's 310-995-7912. Until next week, may God bless you as you go his way.